Hey everybody, I'm Mike with Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and this is The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. It's time to join the conversation.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching and or listening to in podcast format, The Right of the People. It is Friday, April 30th, 2021. And as always, we have a lot to talk about. But uncharacteristically, we're going to start off with a bit of good news. But before we get there, I want to welcome my esteemed panel. In no particular order, we have the tactical sourpuss himself, Calaveras 32 Special. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine, Budget, and I appreciate you letting me on the on the panel again. I'm always wondering when that pass is gonna get revoked.
You're good to go with me, brother. Speaking of good to go, we got the one, the only, the irascible yet lovable Squib Lift this time.
Here for all of your powered industrial truck needs.
Woohoo! That just sounds good. For all your powered industrial truck needs, check out Squib Lift. And it looks like, sneaking in at the last second, we got Rocall 219, fresh from the turkey killing fields.
Timing is everything, and I'm happy to be here.
Outstanding. Did you get a turkey yet?
No, I have not.
Those bastards.
So you put out that video where you showed the turkey in your backyard, and a couple hours later, we got our very first turkey walk through our front yard here in the suburbs. I don't know, man. You sent some good karma my way. Too bad I can't go hunting in my front yard.
Shoot it with an air rifle.
There you go.
In this township, that's considered a firearm. So it's a crossbow, a bow and arrow, an airsoft gun. Yeah.
Wow, that sucks.
I'm sorry you do not live in freedom like I do.
That sucks. Ugh.
It's just an ordinance, That's all.
Well, get out there with a lasso. I can see Squib chasing a turkey through his yard with a lasso whipped up out of paracord. Come here, you son of a bitch! Whoops.
Lasso and a K-bar.
How about something like a net?
No, the thought of Squib with a lasso in his hands and a K-bar between his teeth chasing after a turkey. Oh, that's awesome. I wish I had any artistic talent whatsoever, because I would draw that shit up and make it a sticker. That would be great. All right.
I'm glad you're amused.
I am. Looks like my amusement has driven people off, because we did have, 9 people out there? Now we got 4. So, yeah. But, hey, we got Gun Lover Grandpa, Defense Dad. Defense Dad says I'm competing with both NEA and Night Strike tonight. Okay. We got M. Gabriel in the house and Mystic Guns. Hello to all 4 of you people out there watching. Oh, nope, 5 people watching. So whoever number 5 is, thanks for slipping in here and being part of the conversation. Nope, 7. Oh, now they're struggling in. Somebody must have signed off. But that's all right. That is free enterprise, and competition is a good thing. People will start coming in later. So, Ron 2A Matters. Hi, how you doing? Alrighty, well, we got some stuff to talk about. A judge in Illinois said, you know what? This whole FOID card thing, it's a load of crap. So let's go ahead and talk about this. This is from bearingarms.com by Cam Edwards from April 27, 2021. Illinois judge says FOID requirement unconstitutional for guns at home. The state of Illinois is one of just a handful across the country that require a permit to possess a gun in the home and provides criminal penalties for those who are caught with a firearm. But that law took a hit on Tuesday when a circuit court judge ruled that the state's firearm owner ID card is unconstitutional, at least when it comes to keeping arms in your residence. The case of Illinois v. Vivian Claudine Brown has been in the state court system for several years now, and today's decision is actually the second time that a judge has ruled Brown's possession of a bolt-action rifle shouldn't have been a crime, even though she didn't possess a valid FOID card. Last year, the Illinois State Supreme Court declared that the judge had unnecessarily ruled on the constitutionality of the FOID statute and sent the case back down to the circuit court for further review. Well, that review's been made, and once again we have a declaration that the FOID requirement is a violation of the Second Amendment. In a thorough analysis of the state's FOID law, Judge T. Scott Webb makes the astute observation that under Illinois law, no one really has the right to keep and bear arms, even in their home. Instead, everyone is considered a prohibited person unless and until they fork over money to the state for a permission slip. Webb says that the entire process is inverted, adding, "The burden should be on the state to demonstrate that a citizen has committed an act, thereby disqualifying them from being in a group of people that already possess a Second Amendment right. Instead, the opposite is true. A citizen in the state of Illinois is not born with a Second Amendment right, nor does that right inure when a citizen turns 18 or 21 years of age. It is a facade. They only gain that right if they pay a $10 fee, complete the proper application, and submit a photograph." Alan Gottlieb of the Second Amendment Foundation, which supported Brown's case, along with the Illinois State Rifle Association, says the decision is an important step forward towards getting the case back before the state Supreme Court. The FOID card requirement in order to exercise the constitutionally enumerated right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment clearly goes too far in this case, said Second Amendment founder and Executive Vice President Alan M. Gottlieb. As White County Circuit Judge T. Scott Webb notes in his ruling, it simply cannot be the case that a citizen must pay a fee in order to exercise a core individual Second Amendment right within their own home. For too long, Illinois has been treating this right like a regulated government privilege, and that needs to stop. Gottlieb says it's outrageous for the state of Illinois to declare that no one can legally own a gun unless they fork over $10 and wait for the state to give them a permission slip, and Judge Webb clearly agrees. In his opinion, Webb also declared that if the right to bear arms and self-defense are truly core rights, there should be no burden on the citizenry to enjoy those rights, especially within the confines and privacy of their own homes. Even in the best of circumstances, Illinois' FOID requirement is an egregious abuse of government power, but the issue has become even more acute over the past year as the state has allowed tens of thousands of FOID applications to pile up. It's taking an average of 4 months for the Illinois State Police to process a FOID application, which means people trying to exercise their Second Amendment rights are being forced to wait for weeks for permission to exercise a constitutionally protected right. There are several challenges to the FOID delays that are also making their way through the state's court system, but Brown's case may be the first opportunity that the state Supreme Court has to weigh in. The court punted on the constitutionality of the FOID requirement last year, but Judge Webb appears to be doing all he can to force the state Supreme Court to decide the issue once and for all. I think this is great. I think that Judge Webb saying, you know what? This entire requirement of the FOID is unconstitutional, and we're not going to have it. It's bull. Is awesome. Then it goes up to the state Supreme Court. He says, yeah, you can't rule on that. You need to go back and look at the case through another lens. Goes back to the same court. The judge says, you know what? I was right the first time. Screw you guys. This is unconstitutional. Ball's in your court now. I think that's awesome. I think it's great. What do you guys think? Do you think that a bit of liberty will come to this? Do you think that the good citizens of the state of Illinois will have to continue trying to prove that they're good guys instead of the state proving that they're bad guys, trying to prove that they should have a gun where it's actually on the state to prove that they shouldn't? Do you think that that's going to continue, or do you think that eventually the state Supreme Court in Illinois is going to agree with Judge Webb and abolish this thing?
My guess is it's probably, the state Supreme Court, which, is probably going to be heavily influenced by Chicago, is going to disagree with Webb, and they're going to reinstitute the FOID card. And this case is going to have to go several notches higher in legal process if it's going to have any kind of chance of, being terminated.
What do you think, Ro?
I agree. I agree with Pickle. I mean, it's cool that the judges are saying that it's unconstitutional. It's stupid. I mean, if you look at it, kind of violates a couple more amendments, your personal property and privacy and things. But then again, let's just say this guy, turns the corner. When you look at Illinois as a whole, they either can't keep people in those positions, political positions, because of all their scandals, or they put people in there that are just not pro-gun. Man, I've always said it. I understand. I see the premise behind permits, but I've always disagreed with permits. I think permits are horrible. And when you look at the FOID card, that's a disaster. That's a card where I watch people on other social media sites complain how their state police never issued permits, or drug their feet on permits, or took their money and did both. I mean, that's the problem I see with permits. I agree with Pickle. I think it's great. I think it's great. It's great when these 2A cases come up. And what's even greater is when people recognize that this thing just does nothing but restrict the average citizen from defending themselves, their family, and all the things that they own. But yet again, they're heavily left-leaning state, and whether this will gain enough traction to get to that point, okay, but I don't see it really moving beyond that. And the bad thing about that is, once they rule on stuff, just like the federal government, once they rule on it, and they set it in stone, it is damn near impossible to remove it. So that would be my only fear moving on. Yeah, this is great that it moves this far, but what happens if they do strike it down and they say that these two guys are full of poop, and what is said is said, and this thing becomes permanent? Then that puts everybody in that state at a disadvantage. But I'm totally behind it. I don't like any kind of permit anything, but we'll just have to wait and see how it turns out.
Well, Warsaw rightly points out that, not in so many words, but that Chicago is the tail that wags the dog in Illinois, for sure. Everything that happens politically in Illinois is pretty much at the control of Chicago. But I gotta wonder, doesn't Illinois have a state legislature that is comprised of people from other than Chicago? I mean, how many people does Chicago have in the state legislature versus the rest of the state have in the state legislature? Because it would seem to me that if enough Illinoisans, if that's what you people there call yourselves, Illinoisans, but if enough people in Illinois put pressure on their elected officials to get rid of the FOID card, then this whole thing would go away via legislation instead of having to fight it in litigation like they are. I'm not familiar enough with Illinois politics, other than the general statement that, Chicago, tail, dog, all that. So, if you're from Illinois out there in the live chat, or if you're watching this in a replay or listening to this as a podcast, sound off in the comments below. Let me know. Is there any hope whatsoever of the rest of the state doing something to get rid of the FOID card via legislation, via, having your elected representatives actually represent you and introduce and campaign for and pass a law that would nullify and get rid of the FOID card? instead of having to rely on the courts to do it, because roll call's right. Once the state Supreme Court makes up its mind, that's it. It is the law of the land in Illinois, unless and until a different challenge can take care of it with a different composed state Supreme Court. Because I'm not sure, and I'm actually ashamed to admit this. I really need to look it up. If something can be ruled on in the state Supreme Court and then taken to the Fed Supreme Court, or if only cases that go through federal courts can go to the federal Supreme Court. Someone out there, let me know about that too, if you know different, because I'm not sure how that works.
My basic understanding of it is, yes, it can go from the state Supreme up into the federal system if a certain criteria is met. I believe that's how a number of the pro-gun cases out of California have ended up at the federal level. I don't know how the process works to get it there, but I do believe it is a possibility.
Well, let me do my favorite thing and ask Google. Okay, Google.
Another thing that
can a case progress from the state Supreme Court to the federal Supreme Court?
And another thing I want to put out there, since we're trying to reach people that are on the other side of the aisle, or
rulings on matters of federal law can be appealed to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah, state law, according to Google, state law is state Supreme Court and they're final. Federal law is federal Supreme Court. I'm sorry to interrupt you like that, Ro. Please continue.
I was just saying, since everybody's talking about shaking hands with anti-gunners have to look at this, especially in the state of Illinois, because there's a ton of them. What is the FOID card actually doing? It's doing nothing to prevent crime. It never stops crime. Just today, they arrested somebody in my town that hopped out of a stolen vehicle with a firearm from Chicago. And guess what? That firearm was not purchased legally. It was stolen. So it does.
Wait a minute. Was this guy from Illinois?
Yeah.
Well, he had his FOID card, right? I mean, he had to have a FOID card in order to have a firearm, didn't he?
And that's the point I'm getting at. Criminals aren't going to obey the law.
What?
When you start amplifying that people have to have this to buy guns or ammunition, or to even have guns or ammunition in the home itself, it does nothing but impede on the law-abiding citizen to protect themselves. I don't know. I don't see their reasoning. And that's one of the things that one day maybe I will see their reasoning, but to me, there is no reasoning. There is no reasoning to this card. This card they'll just cross the border, whatever state that they border, and go buy ammunition, because a lot of people don't check for FOID card.
Pipeline.
I mean, it's just, it's asinine in that way. And I wish people would understand that criminals are going to do to whatever limits it takes them to get their hands on this stuff, and hog tying a law-abiding citizen, the populace itself is not the correction. If it was, you wouldn't see 3 people a day being shot in that city or around that area in the suburbs. You would not see it if this thing worked. It just doesn't work. You know what does work? When you give the people, the populace of that state, the right to defend themselves and not restrict them.
Crazy talk.
Yeah,
Crazy
I'll be on
talk.
some kind of list now.
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah,
You really think you're not on a list already?
I was going to say, we're all on Right of the People, as well as you're a firearms owner and everything else. You're probably on a dozen different lists, just like I am.
Come on, man. Come on. We're all on lists. Speaking of lists, I want to say hello to the people who've added themselves to the list out there in the chat. We've got Rob, New York Outcast, coming in. Ron 2A Matters. I'm not sure if I said hello to him already. We got Buck, Gun Loving Grandpa's out there. Rich White's in the house.
And I just want to add this about lists. If you haven't researched it yet, It's a very, very interesting read about the FBI and them releasing data and personal information to Interpol on gun owners. You should go read that one.
Artak and Daughters is out here. Warsaw Patriot is here. Yep, that's it. Rich White says that state cases can be appealed to SCOTUS. Warsaw Point agrees. He says the FOID doesn't do crap, basically. I'm paraphrasing here. Did I mention Artak and Daughters? Well, if I didn't, Artak and Daughters out there, how you doing?
Yeah, that's right. I'm kind of leaning towards agreeing there with Rich White, because that's why the California's handgun roster is in the federal system right now, and potentially going, depending how far it goes, it could go all the way up to SCOTUS. So
I would think that it would be able to go to SCOTUS because it violates the Second Amendment, which is the highest law of the land. But if it was something that wasn't a federal law that covers the entire country, then I don't think they could take it beyond the state Supreme Court. Rich, you're the government guy. Is that about accurate?
Well, speaking of the Supreme Court, as I mentioned in a little video I did on Monday, the Supreme Court has decided to take another firearms case. Finally, after 10, 11, 12 years, however long it's been since McDonald. Supreme Court to decide whether Second Amendment protects concealed carry of firearms. This is a piece from Breitbart by Ken Blackwell. The Supreme Court announced Monday that it will decide a core gun rights issue, whether the Second Amendment requires states to give permits to law-abiding citizens to carry concealed weapons. The Second Amendment protects the right to keep and bear arms. The Supreme Court held that in its 2008 landmark decision, District of Columbia versus Heller, that the Second Amendment guarantees that right for private citizens. In its 2010 follow-up case, McDonald versus City of Chicago, the court held that the right to bear arms applies against state and local governments the same way it does the federal government. But both of those cases involved a law-abiding citizen who wanted to keep a single handgun in his home for personal protection, which would be the absolute floor of what the Second Amendment could possibly provide. It left all other issues for future cases as to how far that right to keep and bear arms extends. Perhaps the most heavily debated follow-up issue is what a citizen's Second Amendment rights are when he leaves his home. Given the popularity of concealed carry permits, one of the questions concerns carrying weapons as people go about their daily lives. Most states provide permits to all qualified applicants. However, a few states claim the authority to require citizens to prove special circumstances to qualify for a permit, such as having an abusive ex-spouse or being a prosecutor who fears retaliation from the criminals he is prosecuting. New York has such restrictions. In Monday's order, the justices granted review in a constitutional challenge to New York's law, with the petition arguing that the Second Amendment entitles them to concealed carry permits for purposes of general self-defense only, without any special circumstances. Second Amendment supporters have been trying for more than a decade to get the High Court to weigh in on this issue. The court has repeatedly denied petitions from various challengers. Given both Heller and McDonald were 5-4 decisions, experts suspected that moderate Justice Anthony Kennedy and moderate conservative Chief Justice John Roberts were the reasons gun rights supporters did not have the votes to tackle this issue. This is the first major petition on the Second Amendment to be considered since Justice Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed to the seat formerly held by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Evidently, Second Amendment supporters now at least have support from the necessary 4 justices to grant review, though it is not yet clear whether they have the additional support for 5 votes to prevail in the case. Former U.S. Solicitor General Paul Clement is representing the challengers. Clement also argued before the court in the Heller and McDonald cases and is regarded as one of the top litigators in the nation on this issue. The Biden administration has not yet expressed a view on the case. It will likely be argued late this year, with a decision expected by June 2022. The case is New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Corlett, number 20-843 in the Supreme Court of the United States. So we have what may be a ray of hope on the Second Amendment front. Of course, it may not. The court could take it only to slap down the plaintiffs and support New York's right to, quote unquote, right, New York's stance that they have the right to decide whether or not you can exercise your rights. What do you guys think? Is this a good thing, bad thing, meh? We'll believe it when we see it. What are your opinions, fellas? Go ahead and throw it out there. You guys out in the chat, you can throw it out there too.
I'm cautiously optimistic. They may let it stand the way it was if they agreed with it. Then again, they could take it up just as a final nail in the coffin. It's really hard to say, and that's for it's a quote unquote conservative court now after getting Barrett replacing Ginsburg and this kind of stuff. I think there's plenty of people in that court that have proven just because they ruled a certain way in the past doesn't guarantee that they'll rule that same way now. So there is no slam dunk involved in any of this stuff.
Very true, because remember last week they refused to hear the case of nonviolent felons being able to regain their Second Amendment rights, which is something that Barrett had weighed in on in the past in a dissent in a case involving that. So you're absolutely correct. Past rulings, past judgments, past performance does not necessarily indicate future action.
Oh, and from what I understand, when this case, it originally challenged permits as a whole, and the SCOTUS, when they agreed to take it, dismissed the portion of it that would be shall issue, and have elected to focus it down as a dealing with the may issue only. So a positive ruling on this would not make constitutional carry nationwide. It would just force the shall issue state to become may issue. Sorry, may issue to become shall issue.
Which is really splitting hairs. And Gabriel does point out that given that they changed the question to be addressed, he has reservations. Yeah, I agree. I have some reservations with it too because of that. But we keep forgetting that there is another case in the pipeline for this. That I think actually is a better case that I really hope they take. And that's this next article we're going to be talking about. What will SCOTUS do with Young v. Hawaii? By Cam Edwards, April 30th, 2021. We know that the Supreme Court is going to hear a challenge to New York's May issue carry licensing laws this fall. We know that the court has tweaked the question posed by the plaintiffs from one that asks broadly whether the Second Amendment protects the right to carry a firearm outside the home for self-defense to a more narrow question that will address whether the individual plaintiffs in NYSPA v. Corlett had their rights violated with the state denying them a permit to carry. What we don't know, however, is what the court is going to do with a similar case challenging the right to carry in Hawaii, where the Ninth Circuit has declared that the Second Amendment doesn't protect a general right of the people to bear arms in self-defense. That case hasn't arrived at SCOTUS yet, but over at Reason, law professor Josh Blackman, who's expressed some concern over the court's reframing of the issue, notes that there's reason to believe the Supreme Court might try to combine the two cases. Will Baud wrote about the case in his excellent blog, and Will suggested that the case from Hawaii may be a better vehicle. With these questions in view, it's not clear to me that Corlett is the best vehicle for considering these questions, compared to the recent Ninth Circuit decision from Hawaii. First, I've been told that there are some ambiguities in whether New York allows or forbids those with a carry license from carrying their firearms openly. Second, and relatedly, the law of restricted gun licenses in New York is quite baroque, but it might be necessary for the court to figure it out if the right to concealed carry depends in part on the availability of the right to open carry. Third, New York authorities issue many carry licenses to civilians, so the regime for concealed carry licenses is not as close to a complete or near complete ban as Hawaii. Fourth, in New York, no state law prohibits individuals from carrying rifles and shotguns, although some cities, including New York City, restrict the practice, where Hawaii restricts both. Now the petitioner's lawyers are very, very good, and it may well be that the court has thought its way through these issues, and they won't be a problem. For instance, in principle, the court could just announce that the test it thinks is relevant and remand for application of that test to the details of New York law. But it's also possible that they will realize as they dig into the case over the summer that it would have been wiser to grant the Hawaii case. Indeed, it's not too late. When they get a cert petition from Hawaii over the summer, they might consider granting it and consolidating it with New York so that they have the option of resolving the issue in a simpler but accurate way. I like the idea of granting the Hawaii case as well. If counsel for petitioners hustle, the case could come up for the long conference. And if there is a grant by the start of the term, both cases could be argued in January or February with a decision by June. Given the egregiously awful decision by the Ninth Circuit, which gave precedence to Hawaiian tribal law over the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, I have a hard time imagining SCOTUS just letting the case pass by without comment. And as Blackman and Baud both argue, the Hawaii case presents a cleaner issue for the court. If the justices are going to wade in on the right to bear arms, why wouldn't they include a challenge that gets to the core issues in play, whether or not the Second Amendment extends outside of the home? As Baud notes, it won't be until this summer before Young arrives at the court's doorstep, so we won't know for several months whether or not the justices will take the case and fold it into NYSRPA v. Corlett. It would be a great step for SCOTUS and a sign that the court is going to issue a substantive ruling on the subject. But for now, gun owners will have to wait and see what the justices will do. There's potential there, folks. Again, just potential. It's not a guarantee that they're going to do anything. They could rule real narrowly on the NYSRPA case. They very well could. And it seems that that's the intention since they already narrowed the question from here to here. And they might rule from here to here. But maybe they're waiting for a cleaner case. And that is definitely the Young case. I think it has more potential to be a broader, more sweeping ruling if they fold Young into NYSRPA v. Corlett. So, what do you guys think? Do you think there's a chance that they're waiting to do that? Or a chance that they might rule on them separately? Or you think they might just say, hey, Young case, bye-bye?
If I recall correctly, I don't know which circuit it was. I believe there was an East Coast circuit here not too long ago that ruled something along the lines of, more or less in opposite of what the Ninth just ruled, there on the Young case.
There's a split.
So that is usually the type of situation where it gets the SCOTUS's attention because of having one section of the country having drastically different from the other section. So there is with that in consideration, I think that there is a decent chance that they either could or will try to rule on Young, whether it's in conjunction with New York or as its own standalone thing.
Rose, Squib, do either of you guys have opinions on this matter?
They ain't gonna do nothing.
It's going to be hard pressed.
Did somebody hop off or get lost?
Calaveras dropped out.
Oh, okay.
The pickle ran away.
He flopped on out the jar. I wonder if he ran through a tunnel because he is driving.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, we'll see if he comes back. If you come back, Pickle, you're welcome. If you don't, thanks for being here. Out in the chat, Rich White says the 14th Amendment made every part of the Constitution apply to the states as well as the federal government. If they rule in favor of New York, that would be incorrect. But you have to remember, Rich, you have to remember something extremely important here. And you know, you really can't argue with it because it comes from a really highly placed source. No amendment is absolute.
Wow.
M. Gabriel says, is my chat dead or is no one text chatting? I don't know.
Yeah, I can read him. He's putting out a comment every other.
Yeah, he's putting out a comment every other minute. Nobody else is. All 10 people that are out there. Boy, man, what the hell's going on this week? Nobody's watching me.
9 now.
I just ran somebody off.
You want me to get you some ratings?
M. Gabriel wants to know, why is Calaveras pickle? Oh, because if you go to his channel and you look at his avatar, he has California in green. And from a distance, you know, if it's shrunk down, it just looks like a pickle there. That's why he's called pickle, because the California in green looks like a big ass pickle.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want,
and it's a tactical pickle because he's got a gun with it.
If you really wanted to apply some sort of California vegetable to him, I suppose he could be the tactical avocado.
He could be. He could be the tactical avocado.
But yeah, it does look like a pickle.
Hey, as long as he's not a tactical eggplant, we're all right.
So I can appreciate where you're at, being optimistic about the Supreme Court, but based on the way that they've behaved, I am not going to be optimistic. You know, I guess if I'm wrong, I owe you a Polar Pop, but it'd be well worth the money. So,
yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of a roll of the dice. The Supreme Court historically, at least in the last 11 years, has been really iffy on Second Amendment issues. I've said before that if we're going to win this thing, it's going to be in the courts because they have the greatest ability to make far-reaching, impactful rulings on the laws that the legislature puts in place. But that means they'll have to choose to do so. And so far, they haven't been. They have been kicking the Second Amendment can down the road for over a decade now. I'm glad to see that they're taking up a case. Just as they took up the other New York case, the one against New York City that New York City mooted out. You know, I'm hopeful. I'm not going to say I'm convinced. I'm going to say I'm hopeful that SCOTUS will take this, that SCOTUS will rule that may issue is bullshit, and that shall issue will become law. I'm not going to hold my breath because I don't want to pass out and smack my head off the floor.
I think in the same way states have openly defied federal law and the federal government hasn't done anything, that even if they did say may issue can't exist, it has to be shall issue or nothing, you know, or it just has to be shall issue, I guess you could say. There's going to be states that are just going to go, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, there are. And the current administration is not going to go, well, we'll cut your funding. Because the current administration will go, right on, screw that court, let's pack it.
They don't need to pack it. Those deadbeats aren't doing anything, and they probably won't do anything.
Time will tell. I hope I'm right and you're wrong. But, you know, look what hope and change got us for 8 years, right?
You got that free phone you had to stand in line for?
I ain't get shit for free, brother. I bought my phone. My money. Blood, sweat, and tears for it. MK Joe's out there in the house. How you doing? Well, JDO's out there. I don't think... JDO, video title is misleading until a final ruling. It's just another case that could make a difference. Too many cases could have made it a difference, but didn't. Well, I would... Go ahead.
You know who JDO is, right?
No, I don't.
It's Dano. Just
Oh,
Dano.
really? Oh, just Dano. Okay. I don't think it's misleading. I don't think it's
Acronym.
misleading at all. A Illinois judge did rule the FOID unconstitutional. Now, no, it's not finalized, but hey, he did rule it unconstitutional. Granted, it's going to have to go back to the Illinois Supreme Court, and we'll see what they'll do, but I don't think it's misleading.
If the FOID gets shot down, it could set precedent to help other states, okay? But if it doesn't get shot down, if it gets reinforced, it's going to set precedent to do more harm to other states going, well, I think we need one too, or whatever. I'm not saying you shouldn't take these cases.
No, but they are a roll of the dice.
They are kind of and I think too many people put their hopes on it, or this is something where have we gone through all the right steps to get to where we're at, or I don't know. There's just a lot there, but overall, the states with the changes that are better for our Second Amendment rights help the other states to affect change. Look at all the states that are doing constitutional carry. It started with one state and the ball got rolling. When a state has restrictions on our constitutional rights, it's an influence for other states to copy that. So if you're in a state that has a lot of pro-Second Amendment laws or isn't anti-Second Amendment, then that's a good thing. But if you're in a state that suppresses the Second Amendment, nobody wants to be your friend because you're not helping. And somebody might say, well, I didn't do it. The elected officials did it. Or I didn't do it. I voted the other way. Or what? This all goes back to, is it effective? Are you effective being there? Is it worth this? Is it worth that? So there's a lot of hopes, and there's a lot of this, and there's a lot of that. I would love to see some more pro-Second Amendment stuff out there, because like when you guys were getting close to getting constitutional carry there in Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably what would get us to start doing constitutional carry here, or get the ball rolling to do that in Michigan. If you guys got it, we would try to get it. But since that didn't happen, and I'm not blaming you. I'm saying on our own, we won't go for it. There's too many people that would lose money if we got constitutional carry. But if it was like, see, Ohio's got it, then they might be more inclined to go, oh, okay. So sometimes that helps. It can go one way or the other. Just like these rulings can go one way or the other. It can make things better and make things worse.
Yeah, it is always a roll of the dice, and I'm not gonna blow smoke and say anything else. But man, if it came up the way it should by rights, that would be a great thing.
Rich, if your governor made West Virginia a 2A sanctuary state, then tomorrow I want you to go down and buy a full auto gun without filling out a 4473 and without having registered on the NFA. And if you can't do that after he signs a law that says West Virginia's a 2A sanctuary, then you're not really a 2A sanctuary state.
I sure as shit wouldn't want to be the test case, as I've said many times before.
But if you're truly 2A sanctuary and you're saying the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, then that's what it means. It doesn't mean, well, anything that happens after today, we won't support. No, you've got to wipe it clean. Otherwise, you're really not 2A. I know a lot of people are doing this, but these are politicians that are virtue signaling. They want to keep your vote. They want to keep you happy. But if they really want to say this is a 2A county or city or state, then there's no more 4473. There's no more NFA. There's no more any of that crap. Until then, it's just a ruse. It's just a ploy. They're doing what politicians do.
Speaking of politicians doing what politicians do, this is from CNN.com. We'll listen to this cackling harpy here. Vice President Kamala Harris talks with CNN's Dana Bash about the need for Congress to act on gun control legislation in the wake of recent mass shootings across the country. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be an ad here. Yep, see, told you.
My family.
So, yeah.
I'm gonna make it right.
Let me mute that during the ad so that I don't get a copyright strike, you know. I don't want that.
Glad I can't hear it.
All right, back to the Harpy.
Mass shootings in America in a little over a month. Your administration has made clear that infrastructure is the next big legislative priority. Why not guns? Anthony Fauci told me over the weekend that gun violence is a public health emergency.
I'm just going to state that I would want to stay that far away from her, too, for fear of catching something.
Well, I would disagree. We actually, as an administration, have taken action. The president issued executive orders, for example, on ghost guns. And there is only so much, however, that a president can do through executive action. This president, Joe Biden, has a long-standing history of speaking very clearly and unambiguously about the need for smart.
Honey, Joe hasn't spoken clearly and unambiguously about anything. He can barely string a sentence together, but I digress.
Gun safety laws back from the time that he was in the Senate through today. But I guess that emphasizes the point that both when he was in the Senate, when I was in the Senate, same thing, we were pushing for legislation. Congress has to act.
Exactly.
Because we have to codify, that's a fancy word for make permanent, make the law that we agree.
Gee, I thank you for explaining what codify means, because, you know, I'm a stupid peasant and I would have never understood that. Sanctimonious.
We should have background checks. That's just reasonable gun safety laws. We should have an assault weapons ban. Assault weapons have been designed to kill a lot of people quickly. They are weapons of war, and Congress has to act, Dana. I mean, you know, I was recently in Connecticut. Senators Murphy.
Still dancing in the blood of the people in Newtown.
Murphy and Blumenthal and the governor there, so many people, the families of Sandy Hook. You know, I honestly thought that when those babies, 26 and 7-year-old children, were slaughtered, I really thought Congress would act. I thought that would be the thing. And it didn't happen.
But do you think it can happen? My question was about, but my question was about your priority as an administration,
but
pushing
it is
it
part
harder.
of our priority. We have to multitask, so not one to the exclusion of the other.
So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
They took everything from me.
Hey, Budget, was it really sanctimonious or was it more condescending?
It was both. It was sanctimonious and condescending.
Okay. All right. Well, you write articles and stuff, so you use language more than I would. So I wasn't sure if you could apply both or if it would be considered grammatically a correct one over the other or both. But
no, both. It's yes, it's both.
Ah, thank you.
Rotten, frickin'. As you can tell, I'm not overly fond of the knee pads in chief, but you know.
I'll say it. I'll say it if you don't want to.
No,
she's a fucking bitch.
I'm trying to clean up the show, dude.
Oh well, I just take that.
Yes, I'm trying to get back to not saying things like that. I kind of slipped there for a while, but I, you know, am in. Actually, I'm in talks with somebody to sponsor the show, so I'm trying to.
I should have probably.
I'm trying to not be that guy anymore.
I probably should have checked before we went live.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I hadn't told you, so don't worry about it. It's all good. Still trying to be PG. So, yeah. Defense Dad said Boomhauer is easier to understand than Biden. Yeah, no kidding. Rich White, look how stupid they look with that distancing. She almost needs a megaphone to ask her any questions. She never had an honest thought in her life.
I instantly discredited her when she said that Fauci was the one advising her that this was an epidemic or this is a health crisis, and it's like flip flop Fauci.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're not helping build your case.
Rich, oh no, that's horrible, dude. You almost made me spray pop all over everything. Dude. I agree, and yes, you shouldn't say that, but...
I had to go back and read it. Good job.
Wow.
Rich. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trying to clean up the show,
We
then I guess I
should
should...
mention him in the self-defense shout-out.
Then I guess I shouldn't call her Willie Brown's dumpster, then.
Because he used the English language to defend the Second Amendment. He used the first to defend the second there.
Yes. Wow, that's... Bravo, sir. Bravo. Yeah. In other news, last week we talked about the Ma'Khia Bryant shooting. For those of you who don't know or don't remember, that's the incident in Columbus, Ohio, where a 16-year-old girl was shot by Columbus police while she was in the process of trying to stab a girl in pink. Well, because Columbus is awesome this way. This is from dailydot.com. Woman in Ma'Khia Bryant video says she's getting doxxed, death threats after fatal police shooting of teen. The death of Ma'Khia Bryant is the latest fatal police shooting to capture national attention over bullshit. And now the woman pictured in the video with Bryant is reportedly receiving death threats over the incident. The 16-year-old was shot multiple times after police responded to a 911 call in Columbus, Ohio, about an altercation happening outside of the foster home Bryant was living in at the time. Body camera footage shows the teenager approaching a young woman while holding a knife, which is when police reportedly opened fire. Bryant's aunt has said that Ma'Khia made one of the two... Let me start that paragraph over. Bryant's aunt has said that Ma'Khia made one of the two 911 calls placed prior to the police arriving on the scene, but law enforcement has not yet confirmed the identity of either caller. But according to Fox 8, the woman Bryant appeared to be lunging at when police shot her was identified and doxxed by people online. After her address and photo began circulating on social media, the woman reportedly told police that she was receiving death threats. Fox 8 reported that the woman, often referred to online as the girl in pink for the bright outfit she was wearing in the video, said people were telling her she should be beat or killed and that someone claimed they were on their way to her current address to kill her. Many details about the shooting and the events leading up to it are still uncertain. The video of the woman in pink being escorted from the scene featured her saying that Bryant effing came at me with a knife. Bryant's foster mother, Angela Moore, has said that the argument between Bryant and two of her former foster children, including the woman in pink, was over keeping her house clean. She also said that the woman is the one who called her to tell her what happened after Bryant was shot by police. I never in my worst nightmare would have thought it would ever come to this, Moore told CNN. The woman in pink has reportedly gone to stay with a relative in Cleveland to avoid the threats against her as a result of the doxing. So... yeah, that should have and almost did go into the moron of the week category because I think it's just a testament to how freaking stupid people are. This girl is shown on video about to be stabbed by an enraged idiot with a knife. Who had just charged another girl and threw her to the ground, drove her to the ground as she was trying to stab her or slash her. You can see her flailing at the other girl with the knife. Then turned on the girl in pink and tried to stab her before she was justifiably shot by Columbus police. And she gets death threats. Because, she just should have let the Ma'Khia stab her. She might have lived through it. You don't know if you would have died. These are actual quotes. You might have lived through it. You don't know if you would have died. You might have just got cut. It's. I was going to say it's unbelievable, but no, it ain't. I believe it. Yep. People really are this effing stupid. What do you guys think? Do you think this is appalling and shocking, or do you think it's par for the course? Blame the victim. Blame the victim.
It's the same thing that we see all the time. These people don't care. Their life wasn't in jeopardy. They weren't there. They don't know the situation. They weren't the ones getting stabbed. Until it happens to them, then they change their tune. It's just like, any other murder. No, everybody's got something to say unless it happens to them, and then we're supposed to, react a different way. Those people are stupid. I hope this girl can get on with her life. People leave her alone. It blows over. And, a lot of this has to do when people blow this stuff out of proportion. The girl's going to get stabbed and murdered possibly. What do you think happens with people that defend themselves? What do you think happens? Somebody ends up shot, stabbed, beaten, or whatever. Hey.
Well, there's more to this story, too. Ohio Gun Owners was going to sponsor, and did sponsor, and got the permit for, and all of that stuff, a rally in Columbus at the Capitol tomorrow to back the blue, to support law enforcement, specifically to support Officer Reardon. And there were some politicians that were going to be there speaking and all that. If you've ever been to a riot at the State House that the Ohio Gun Owners has put on, like the first one I was at where Mary Taylor spoke, you will remember that at those rallies, they put up a fence around the perimeter of the west lawn of the State House so that people who are a part of the event can be in there and be a part of the event, and people that are protesting the event can't be all up on the other people. Well, in Columbus's local Antifa and BLM groups were planning to stage a counter protest and wanted to know if they could be in there in the event, not outside it as they normally are. The planning board and permit board for the State House said, yeah, sure, we're not going to let them put up their fence. So they were planning to come in and try to provoke violence and get violent themselves if they had to. Because they were only going to allow a fence to be up around the speakers and not the attendees. So Ohio Gun Owners postponed the event until a later unspecified date to prevent the Antifards from doing that. So, yeah, there's more to this story. That kind of, on the one hand, I can see why OGO would want to postpone that and not give them a forum to turn us into a spectacle. Us being the patriot, the pro police, the people with common sense, not turning that side into a spectacle and whatnot. But on the other hand, if you bow down to the left and you don't do something you were planning to do because they might disrupt it, they win. So, on the one hand, I see, I wouldn't be looking forward to having some trouble either. But on the other, F them. Let them come. I don't know. Rich White, steel cage match on the State House lawn?
Would we be open carrying at this event?
Oh, most likely there would have been people open carrying for sure.
Then they won't come. Or if they do, they're going to turn around and leave. See, here's the thing.
Well, it's moot because they're not having the event tomorrow.
Well, I get it. But, whether it's rescheduled or it's some other event, I've heard people talk to me about their opinions about going to a rally, and they've never gone to one. Yeah. And they say, people open carry there. Are you trying to scare people? That's not going to help at all. And I say, no, it actually does the opposite. Other people go, no, they're just going to have it on the 6 o'clock news and they're going to interview the stupidest person. Yeah, they do that sometimes. The helicopter's flying over, whatever, and they say whatever they're going to say about us. But the fact is, we're there, and we're not breaking the law, and we're not menacing anybody, and we're not going anywhere either. So if the opposition wants to show, every time I hear about the opposition, there's not this mob of angry people with weapons of any sort, whether it be, a brick, a bottle, or guns, or bats, or whatever, coming to this. It just doesn't happen. So I think that any threats of anybody wanting to start some trouble, I don't give it too much credit. I really don't. I understand the whole DC thing was started by some people who weren't necessarily in that group. They were people that were the opposition, and that would be somewhat of a concern that somebody would get into the group. But those people stick out like a sore thumb, and people are observant. Their head is on a swivel at these events. Somebody's going to pick out somebody and say something, or be taking pictures or doing whatever if somebody looks out of place. Otherwise, I really don't see any real threat when we are there and we are exercising our legal right to be legally armed and together peacefully.
Yeah, but I know that they've taken to bringing weapons themselves to these sorts of things. On the other hand, do they have the fortitude to do anything about it? I don't know. That's the question. But by and large, I agree. I think the majority of me says, yeah, I should have had the damn thing anyway. But I do understand the reservations and why they might not want to do that. Particularly the politicians who were involved and didn't want to be at an event where something like that had a likelihood of happening, or I wasn't going to say likelihood, but a more than dismal possibility of happening. Because, a politician doesn't want to be associated with that.
Well, that's just it. My concern is before they use COVID as an excuse. And now they're going to say, well, it's, it doesn't look good. What's going to be the next time? Yeah, kind of. They're going to keep doing this, trying to kick the can down the road. And I'm not saying OGO, because by and large, OGO is in your face, screw you, no compromise, we're going to do it. Which is why it kind of surprised me that they kind of pulled the plug on this event tomorrow. But we'll see. We'll see what they have in mind. I'm sure that they will cook something back up to have an event like this to express support for law enforcement. So we'll see how it goes. Let me see what else. Next up is a piece of what Squibb calls virtue signaling, but on our side. Montana governor signs bill nullifying gun restrictions. Governor Greg Gianforte has signed a bill that prohibits state and local law enforcement in Montana from enforcing federal bans on firearms, ammunition, and magazines from April 23rd. Governor Greg Gianforte on Friday signed a bill that prohibits the state and local law enforcement in Montana from enforcing federal bans on firearms, ammunition, and magazines. Supporters of the law have said it would protect the Second Amendment from stiffer gun control laws that could come from federal legislation or executive orders by President Joe Biden in the wake of several mass shootings that took place this year, including a shooting last week that killed 8 people in Indianapolis. Opponents of the bill have said it would make it difficult for law enforcement to collaborate with federal authorities on issues beyond gun access when such collaboration is essential to protect public safety, including in cases of domestic violence and drug offenses. Montana law would prohibit law enforcement officials and other state employees from enforcing, implementing, or spending state funds to uphold federal bans on particular kinds of firearms, ammunition, and magazines.
Biden announced this month that several executive actions to address gun violence, including a move to crack down on ghost guns, homemade firearms that lack serial numbers used to trace them and are often purchased without a background check. The U.S. Justice Department has not yet announced its new rules regarding ghost guns, which are expected to be released in the coming weeks. The president has also called for a ban on assault weapons, but such legislation will likely face an uphill climb. Montana is one of at least a dozen states that have sought to nullify new gun restrictions this year. The state's Republican-controlled legislature has attempted to pass similar measures into law for almost a decade. Such bills were vetoed by former Democratic Governor Steve Bullock in 2013, 2015, and 2017. In Arkansas, Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson vetoed a similar measure Friday, saying it would jeopardize law enforcement and the public. A similar measure was signed into law earlier this month in Arizona. Gianforte, a Republican, said in announcing his decision to sign the bill that it would protect Second Amendment rights in the state. Earlier this year, he signed into law a bill that relaxes gun restrictions in Montana, allowing concealed firearms to be carried in most places without a permit and expanding the list of places where guns can be carried to include university campuses and the state capitol. Didn't the Arkansas legislature override the veto? I want to say they did, but I could be wrong there. Where are we at? Well, let's look. This is a thing about Arkansas. This is from April 28th, so like Wednesday, 2 days ago. Arkansas lawmakers approved reworked bill that would override federal gun laws. Arkansas lawmakers on Wednesday approved a reworked bill that aims to preempt federal gun restrictions following objections from the governor, law enforcement, and prosecutors that a previous proposal went too far and jeopardized public safety. The new legislation declares invalid in the state any federal gun restrictions enacted on or after January 1st, 2021 that violate the constitutional right to bear arms. The House voted 79-20 along party lines to send the measure to Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson moments after the Senate approved the bill. Republicans in Arkansas and elsewhere have been pushing to block federal gun restrictions, despite questions about the constitutionality of such measures, citing fears of new gun control measures under President Joe Biden's administration. We're a country based on freedom, and when our freedoms are threatened, we must take action through the tools in our U.S. Constitution and our Arkansas Constitution to protect those freedoms, Republican Senator Missy Irvin, a bill sponsor, said before the Senate approved it by a 26-6 vote, also along party lines, with one Democrat backing it. The new Arkansas nullification measure seeks to ease concerns that prosecutors and law enforcement have raised about a bill Hutchinson vetoed last week that would have imposed criminal penalties on local and state police for helping enforce federal gun restrictions. The Senate voted Monday to override Hutchinson's veto. The House tabled an effort to override Hutchinson's veto after advancing the bill Tuesday afternoon. Lawmakers gave the revised bill final approval in a brief meeting early Wednesday before wrapping up this year's session. Hutchinson didn't say whether he would sign the House-backed bill, but said it has protections for law enforcement. I want to leave it to the General Assembly to see whether they can get that passed and do no harm to law enforcement, which is my goal, Hutchinson told reporters. Then what the hell's the point? If there's no provisions in there to punish law enforcement for violating the bill, then why even do it? It's virtue signaling. So, yada, yada, blah, blah. We can't have our law enforcement, actually held accountable to the law. So, yeah, worthless piece of paper as far as I'm concerned if it actually does nothing and has no consequence. So, Squib, I have to say, I agree with you. Virtue signaling doesn't do shit.
Yeah, some of these laws, it sounds like positive news and whatnot, but I mean, if you're going to really be 2A, if you're going to be 2A sanctuary, you gotta follow through, and having some sort of consequence for an officer who goes, nope, I'm not following the governor's order, I'm not following. And you might say, well, Squib, in your state, the cops don't do what your governor says. No, they don't, but the state Supreme Court's already ruled that what she's saying is unconstitutional, so the cops are covered. So if we let the system play itself out, if a governor or a county executive or a mayor or a city council puts into place a law for that region, or is up to statewide, that says we're going to be a 2A sanctuary state and really mean it and put in consequences, then it can go through a series of courts to challenge that. I agree with that. I agree with the fact that if somebody wants to challenge this, they can challenge it. The same way we can challenge things that we don't see that are right, and let the chips fall where they may. So if we're going to do this in a non-confrontational way, if we're going to try to use the checks and balances that are built into our systems here and try to fight this legally instead of, the way most of us with half a brain don't want to have to fight this, then we've got to be objective about it. And we've got to see things for what they are. Just because this person says they're pro 2A or does some things that are pro 2A, don't think they're not a slime ball. All of them are slime balls. It's just which one's going to do the least amount of damage. And I know some people can't stand to hear that. They back their person and they believe everything they say and they think the person walks on water, and they're all slime balls. All of them. So
what we need to do
keep an eye on what they do.
Well, what we need to do is get a law passed in the entire country to turn us into the Republic of Night Strikistan, where the only gun law is shall not be infringed, and we have lifetime prison sentences for any law enforcement officer who attempts to enforce anything other than that. Yeah, that's it. I vote for a Night Strikistan.
Something. But I know there's people out there that are so excited that somebody in their city, county, or state, passed one, but it doesn't mean anything.
It's virtue signaling. It is. I think you're right. I will. That will be my verdict on any of these Second Amendment sanctuary laws, unless and until I see someone actually enforce it. If I see someone actually, all right, we're going to arrest Mr. ATF agent for coming in here to arrest somebody for having a homemade suppressor without a tax stamp and without, Form 1ing it. Other than that, it's virtue signaling. That's what I say. And matter of fact, it might just be stupid. Speaking of stupid.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
First up in Moron of the Week is this piece from PatriotPost.us about face. Ted Wheeler gets mugged by reality. Antifa, that figment of right-wing fever dreams, may have finally found a believer in hard-left Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. And you remember Antifa. It's the black-clad, Portland-based anarchist mob that New York Congressman Gerald Nadler famously dismissed as a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C. A myth, Jerry? Try telling that to Ted Wheeler. As the Wall Street Journal editorial board reports, a well-known politician on Friday denounced self-described anarchists who engage in regular criminal destruction and want to burn, bash, and intimidate. He called for higher bail and tougher pretrial restrictions on rioters, and he pleaded with the public to cooperate with police and identify miscreants. Our job is to unmask them, arrest them, and prosecute them. Donald Trump? Sheriff Arpaio? Nope. That was Portland, Oregon Mayor Ted Wheeler, the uber progressive who made national reputation last year by apologizing for vandals and rioters he said were merely exercising their right to protest against an unjust America. All this is a humiliating flip-flop for the guy who enabled Antifa to engage in nearly a year-long orgy of nonstop rioting, and the guy who last June vowed to defund his city's police force. As the Oregonian's Everton Bailey Jr. reported at the time, Wheeler pledged the city will divert $12 million from the police bureau and other city departments to directly support communities of color, defund 3 police units, including the Gun Violence Reduction Team, and ban officers from using chokeholds as part of plans to reform the Portland Police Bureau. Wheeler, who's also, get this, the city's police commissioner, said, My privilege as a white man, my privilege as the mayor, and the leader of the institutions of power in this community, I believe, shielded me from time to time from the many difficult and uncomfortable truths about our history and about our society. Clearly, that mea culpa wasn't good enough for Antifa, nor, we think, was it properly directed. Wheeler seemed to be trying to atone for the city's black residents for his white privilege, but last time we checked, Antifa was as lily white as Wheeler. In any case, as the Journal reports, unbridled Antifa rioters shot fireworks at law enforcement, firebombed a new government buildings, and set fire to cop cars and a police union hall, all while the milquetoast mayor carried on like a modern-day Neville Chamberlain. And now he's crying uncle. Yep. The guy who slashed $27 million from the city's 2021 police funding, the guy who called Donald Trump's decision to send in federal forces to quell the rioting last July an attack on our democracy, has finally been mugged by reality. He's now begging for the citizens of Portland to start ratting out that mob he's been trying to appease these many months. As the Daily Wire's Emily Zanotti reports, Wheeler extended a citywide state of emergency and begged for Portland residents to assist law enforcement in unmasking and identifying members of the self-described anarchist mob that have rioted through the city nearly every night since last May. Wheeler, it seems, has learned a valuable lesson in human nature. Weakness is provocative. Better late than never. And who knows? Maybe Wheeler's wisdom will wind its way north to Seattle, where the people clearly want law and order, and where feckless Mayor Jenny Durkin seems to be holding out hope for that summer of love. So, turn around, Ted. You're contestant number 1 on Moron of the Week. Next up is this tweet from Jack Posobiec. Breaking, dashcam released of Democratic Representative Jewel Jones resisting arrest, threatening to call Governor Whitmer.
Oh,
He had just driven drunk into a ditch.
Yeah, this is over on I-96. Yeah, this was hilarious.
Yep. So let's watch this.
No, I already told you that. I already asked your driver's license and your ID. All right, take care of me. I'll give you my stuff. Take care of me. I got you.
For those of you who are on podcast, this shows 2 officers standing in between a cruiser and a ambulance. One is behind the gentleman, the other's in front of the gentleman, and he's not being very cooperative with their request to provide identification.
You gotta make sure they don't pull off before I pull off, right? You're not going anywhere right now. You're gonna take me with them, all right? Listen to me. We're gonna do this one step at a time. All right? Okay. Can I get my phone first? No. Right.
Hold on a minute. Have I? Did I switch? No, I didn't switch to where you guys could see this. Oh, what a moron. I should be the moron of the week. Here, let me switch so that you guys can actually see this.
We'll give you an honorable mention.
It should be a dishonorable mention. Here, now you guys can actually see what's going on.
Right now, I want your ID and your driver's license. Okay? I can't do that. The only...
So, officer just says, I need to see your ID and your driver's license. Or your ID and your license. And he goes, no, I can't do that. Let's listen to that again.
The only reason... And your driver's license. Okay? I can't do that.
I can't do that.
I'm tensing up.
So now the officers say, okay, it's time to go for a ride. So one's got him by one arm, one's got him by the other, and they're attempting to restrain him. He is resisting. You hear the officer say, don't tense up.
Don't tense up.
Hold
and
up.
down
hold
they
up.
go.
Did you talk about what led up to this, or can I speak to that?
He drove drunk into a ditch, and he had a loaded firearm in his cup holder.
That's not all.
Oh, tell us more, Squib.
His pants and his female passenger's pants were down.
Oh!
Yeah.
I did not know about that.
Yeah, it was, I think, a case of drunken, distracted driving. Yeah.
Who was this passenger? Was it Kamala?
I'm really not too sure, but you know, you would think it was Gretchen, the way he was talking about how buddy he is with the governor, and how these officers are going to regret this.
So they're struggling with him, restraining him, trying to cuff him.
Stop resisting. Stop resisting. I'm telling you, if you do that, that's not going to be good. Stop.
He's saying it's not going to be good for you. I'm telling you, don't do that.
It's not going to be good for you. I'm telling you. Stop. I run y'all's budget, bro.
I'll run y'all's budget, bro.
I want to talk to y'all. I won't move. I won't go nowhere. I just want to talk to you. We got this one. Give me your right. Give me your left arm. I just want to talk to you, bro. We're going to. As soon as you stop resisting. Let go of my arm. That's how I'm going to get taken. I don't like this. Give us your left arm. Bro. Stop resisting. Bro, I've been abused by the police so much because I'm black. When I call Gretchen, I need y'all IDs and badge numbers, everything.
When I call Gretchen, I'll need y'all's IDs and badge numbers, everything. Let me give you a hint, folks. When Mr. Officer says stop resisting, what he's actually doing is justifying why he's about to whip that ass. It's probably a good idea to stop resisting. I'm just saying.
Told y'all already. I will sit here and give y'all my shit. If y'all fucking let me sit up, that's all I'm saying. I work with y'all. I don't give a fuck. I work with the police. You're not fucking with me, bro.
So, yeah, there we go. That's pretty awesome. He won't give ID. He won't cooperate. The next tweet says, reportedly he had a loaded gun in the cup holder and was intoxicated at twice the legal limit. And apparently his pants were down and his female passenger's pants were down. So, yeah. Jerkwad Jewel is contestant number 2 on Moron of the Week. But wait, there is more. Because returning to his spot in the Moron of the Week is the sniffer-in-chief, Jackass Joe Biden. This piece from Breitbart. Fact check. Joe Biden falsely claims 1994 assault weapons ban reduced gun crime. Claim. During his April 28, 2021 speech to Congress, President Joe Biden claimed that the 1994 assault weapons ban lowered gun crime. Verdict? False. The Department of Justice's National Institute of Justice released a report as the federal assault weapons ban was about to expire, noting no reduction in gun crime that could be credited to the ban itself. The Washington Times quoted the report's lead researcher saying, "There has been no discernible reduction in the lethality and injuriousness of gun violence." Biden twice made his claim about the alleged effectiveness of the assault weapons ban. First, he referenced passing the ban in the 1990s, adding, "We beat the NRA. Mass shootings and gun violence declined." He later said, "We need a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines again. Don't tell me it can't be done. We've done it before, and it worked." On February 19, 2018, Breitbart News looked back at the NIJ report, noting its findings that the ban's effects on gun violence are likely to be small at best and perhaps too small for reliable measurement. The Times seized on a portion of the NIJ report which indicated one of the reasons banning assault weapons might have been ineffective was because such firearms were rarely used in gun crimes even before the ban. On August 11, 2019, Breitbart News cited FBI uniform crime report numbers showing more people were killed in 2017 with hammers and clubs than were killed with rifles of any kind. But wait, this isn't the only thing that Uncle Touchy said that was dumb. As I made an allusion to earlier, no constitutional amendment is absolute. So I guess that means when I don't file my taxes and don't pay my taxes, I can just say, hey, the president said no amendment is absolute, so screw that whole 16th Amendment thing, right? Right? So, Uncle Touchy, Joe Biden, the sniffer-in-chief, Jackass Joe, is contestant number 3 on Moron of the Week. So, Squib, who do you like? Turnaround Ted, Jerkwad Jewel, or Jackass Joe?
It's another one of those weeks where it's a tough choice. but I'm gonna go ahead and go with turnaround Ted.
Turnaround Ted Wheeler for Squib. Roll call. Which one do you like best for Moron of the Week?
The drunk floozy.
Jerkwad Jewel. So, you guys out there in the chat, you know what time it is. It's time to tell me who you think deserves to be Moron of the Week. Is it Turnaround Ted for his flip-flop stance on Antifa, who now mysteriously exists and is now mysteriously bad? Is it Jerkwad Jewel for, I run y'all's budget. You are going to regret this. I'm somebody important. Or is it Sniffer-in-Chief Jackass Joe Biden for, the thing? Come on, man. All right, let's see who we got. New York Outcast says the Sniffer-in-Chief. MK Joe says Jerkwad Jewel. Rich White says Jewel. Gun Lover Grandpa says Jewel. Scott79 says Jackass Joe. We got 20 out there. We got 4, 5, 6, 7 votes. I got at least 13 more votes coming, folks. Tell me who you think. Turnaround Ted, Jerkwad Jewel, or this Jackass Joe, the Sniffer-in-Chief. Because we know y'all got opinions. Share them with us. That's why we use the first to defend the second around here. I actually drove someone off. Now we only have 19 people watching. Go figure.
Well, I don't know. You might have some people that pop in just because they see you're live and they don't know what's going on, so they leave.
Carly says, turn around Ted. Actually, she said, Ted, I'm a moron Wheeler. This one's tough. I have not been able to narrow down which one I like the most on this, because all three are just plain stupid.
Yeah, I know you do this. You should just stack the deck. But
Scorch says, Joe Open Borders Biden.
If you spread them out, though, by the time you brought it up, they wouldn't be relevant. So I guess it's just always going to be almost always a tough call.
Yeah. I mean, really. It's... Rich White says, you already got a higher percentage than what shows up to vote on Election Day. Very true. Very true. That's a very sad comment on the state of voting in this country, right? JD Prestige says the Sniffer.
We can halt the voting right now, and then in 4 hours, you could have whatever results you want.
Well, that's true. Right now, we're at 2 for Ted, 4 for Jewel, and 4 for Jackass Joe. So we have a tie. Man, this is tough. If I'm forced to break the tie, I don't know what... I really don't know which way it'll go.
You mean kind of like how Harris can break the tie in the Senate?
Yeah, something like that. But I promise you, I didn't get my job the way she got hers. Take that however you want it. All I'm sucking on is this straw, man. Wait a minute. I thought I was trying to clean this up. Stop, budget. Bad.
You cannot help yourself.
New York says Joe Biden for the win. I shouldn't have said that. It was funny, but I shouldn't have said that.
Nah, you're good.
Right now we're at 2 for Ted, 4 for Jewel, and 5 for the Snifferoony. Joe Biden going once. Joe Biden going twice. And sold to the Snifferoo. Back in his place in Moron of the Week. And victorious yet again is Jackass Joe Sniff 'em all. Let Kamala sort 'em out. Biden.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
And so, folks, we have come to the end of the main topics portion and the Moron of the Week portion of the Right of the People. So those of you who have watched this dumpster fire burn to the end before, you know what's coming. What's coming is Roll Call 219's favorite segment, Self-Defense Shoutouts. Self-defense shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It is where I'm reveling in the proposition that the good guy had the means, method, whatever pronoun you prefer. I don't care.
They.
Advertisement for GoPro, apparently. Which I did recently just buy. As a total aside, I paid off my house today. When the paperwork comes through, I'll own that sucker free and clear, so yay. Anyhow, first up is this piece from WashingtonExaminer.com. Armed Good Samaritan saves the day after shoplifter pulls gun on security guard, police say. From April 8th. Oh, no, this is an old one. How did that get in there? Let me go to the next one, because we already talked about this one last week. See, I knew it was going too good. An episode could not have went without some sort of difficulty. Shoot, man. Let's try this one. 19-year-old killed in Rock Hill shooting identified. Officials say killing self-defense. By Andrew Dies? From HeraldOnline.com, April 27, 2021. Rock Hill, South Carolina. Officials have identified the Rock Hill teen shot and killed Saturday in a case where no charges were filed because the shooting was ruled self-defense. Kamal Woodard, 19, died around 5 a.m. Saturday at an apartment on Eagle Place, and Sabrina Gast, York County coroner, said Sabrina Gast, York County coroner. Woodard died after he was shot, Gast said. Police reviewed the evidence with York County prosecutor Willie Thompson, 16th Circuit deputy solicitor. Thompson determined no charges should be filed against the shooter because the shootings were done in self-defense. The evidence showed the shootings were self-defense and to defend others, Thompson said Tuesday. Woodard was a part-time resident at the apartment, said Rock Hill Police Department Lieutenant Michael Chavez. Woodard was shot once after he attacked people in the apartment after Woodard started an ongoing argument, Chavez said. A person in the apartment shot Woodard to try to stop the attack, Chavez said. Woodard, wounded, was shot a second time after he choked and assaulted a woman in the apartment, Chavez said. Woodard was having an anger episode at the time of the shootings, Chavez said. The person who fired the shots and that person's relationship to Woodard have not been released. This guy almost made it to Moron of the Week because you would think after being shot the first time, that would be a hint to stop freaking attacking people. But no, oh no, he was having an anger episode. So, you know, it was reasonable to choke the shit out of somebody else. Until, well, someone reasonably stopped him, and good for them, too. Let's see. This is from KRQE.com. Police investigators are investigating a deadly early morning shooting outside a convenience store. Police report the incident took place around 3:20 a.m. on Sunday outside the Allsops off North Main Street and Country Club Road. Authorities say the store was closed to customers, however. An employee had been working inside the store. The Roswell Police Department reports a male employee had gone outside and was inside his vehicle taking a break when a man pulled up in a vehicle and approached the store employee. Police said the second man, later identified as 29-year-old Jeffrey Miller, began confronting the store employee about how he wanted to buy cigarettes from the store despite the store being closed. Miller then reportedly began talking about a gun he saw in the seat of the store employee's vehicle. According to RPD, investigators believe Miller was intoxicated, and he then returned to his vehicle to grab a handgun of his own, and again confronted the store employee who had exited his vehicle. The men, who were each reportedly armed, eventually agreed to put the guns away in their waistbands. However, authorities say Miller reportedly told the store employee that he wanted to give him his gun. Miller reportedly began reaching for his own gun in his waistband, and the store employee later told investigators he feared for his life as Miller reached for his gun. RPD reports the employee drew his gun and shot Miller once in the chest. Police say a woman who arrived in the parking lot intending to go to the store called police. Miller died at the scene. The store clerk was taken to the police station and interviewed by a detective before being released. Authorities say the investigation into this case remains active. Next up. WSPA.com. 7 News. Sheriff's Office says a woman acted in self-defense in Lakeside Road shooting. From April 26th. Greenville County, South Carolina. Greenville County Sheriff's Office announced Monday that a woman acted in self-defense when she shot a man on April 25th. According to the Sheriff's Office, 37-year-old Christopher Druvon Kennedy is charged with the first-degree domestic violence, unlawful neglect of a child, third-degree assault and battery, and felon in possession of a firearm. Deputies said officers responded at about 10:06 p.m. to Eagle Trace Apartments located at 1 Lakeside Road for a reported shooting. Once deputies arrived on scene, they found a man who had suffered at least one gunshot wound. Deputies said he was taken to an area hospital for his injuries, and he's expected to survive. After further investigation, deputies learned Kennedy allegedly struck and choked. Who's editing this crap? Choked a woman he has a domestic relationship with while she was holding a 9-month-old baby. During the course of the struggle, deputies said a third party intervened to help the victim, and Kennedy began attacking him. During that time, the woman found a firearm in a piece of Kennedy's clothing. When Kennedy turned back to the woman and proceeded to charge after her, she shot him in what deputies believe was self-defense. Kennedy was taken to the hospital where he is in stable but critical condition. Next up, from KTVB.com, one shot in home invasion at Canyon County Coroner's House. From April 27th, Nampa, Idaho. An intruder was shot in Nampa early Tuesday morning after investigators say he entered the home of Canyon County Coroner Jennifer Crawford. The 25-year-old man was carrying a baseball bat when he got into the coroner's house on Pleasant Hill Drive just after 12:30 a.m. He was shot by a resident of the home who was not Crawford, according to police. The man was taken to a local hospital for treatment. His gunshot wound is not believed to be life-threatening, officials said. The intruder's name has not been released, and it is unclear whether he knew the coroner and her family or if the house was chosen at random. Idaho State Police have been called in to investigate the case. ISP spokeswoman Tricia Ferguson said no one else inside the house was hurt in the incident. And last but most certainly not least, from Ocala.com, the Ocala Star Banner. By Austin Miller from April 28th. Man trying to burglarize Ocala home held at gunpoint by homeowner. A woman held a man at gunpoint after he tried breaking into her residence, the Marion County Sheriff's Office reported. I lived in Ocala briefly. Nice place, nice area. The man was arrested once deputies arrived. The homeowner said she was in her residence, located off Southwest 2nd Place, when she heard a noise by her back door. The woman said she grabbed her handgun and confronted the would-be burglar. The woman said the man ran and she followed him, which I would not recommend, but she told deputies she fired a warning shot into the ground, which I also would not recommend. The suspect went into a vehicle that was on the victim's property. She called deputies. When the deputies arrived, the man refused to come out. Instead, he hid under a rug. Deputies managed to get the man out. He ran and was subdued with a taser. The man, later identified as Dominique Travion Hargraves, 28, of Tallahassee, was handcuffed by deputies. Hargraves faces several charges, including loitering and prowling, trespass, and resisting an officer without violence. As of Wednesday, Hargraves remains at the Marion County Jail with bail set at $7,500. Well, there you have it, folks. Several instances where, despite what the mainstream media will tell you, good guys with guns, good gals with guns, good people with guns can, do, and will stop the bad guys who have guns, hammers, bats, and whatever else they can use and will use. That proves two things, folks. Number one, people need access to firearms for defense of themselves, regardless of where they are, whether they're in their home, out on the public streets, sitting in their car in the parking lot at work. And it also proves that even if people don't have guns, criminals are going to find any weapon that they can to try and do them harm. And on that note, we are going to wrap it up, folks, and start closing up. I appreciate everybody being here. But first, I want to say thank you to Calaveras 32 Special, the Tactical Pickle himself, for being here earlier. He dropped his call while he was driving, and maybe he just got home and said, you know what, screw you guys, I'm at home. Who knows? But thanks for being here, Pickle. Go check him out. Roll call. Is there anything you would like to say? Any last words? Any points to ponder? Any words of wisdom? Anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here tonight?
Oh, thanks for having me, like always. Good show. Good show. Go check out my YouTube stuff. Go check out me on Instagram at RollCall219 or Twitter at the same handle. I'll have some videos out here coming up in the next day or two. So look out for that as well.
Hey, man, I don't care who you are. I ain't grabbing your handle over on Twitter, dude. We do that shit on OnlyFans.
Oh, I wish I had one.
People would pay me not to post pictures on that, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Nope, but thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem, brother. Glad you could make it. Speaking of glad you could make it, we got the one, the only, the irascible yet lovable Squibload. How are you, sir? And is there anything you would like to plug? Any thoughts you would like to leave us with?
Check out Caliber Corner tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, the only time zone that matters, on the Travis P11 channel.
All right, go do that, folks. If you got a link or something out there, Squib, go ahead and drop it.
All right.
I want to thank everybody for coming. Got a couple cool things coming up soon. I'm going to have finally a review for this is just one of them, the Bastion EDC gear knives that they sent me to review. I had that video shot, and that'll probably come out for my next Woodsman Wednesday, so check that out on Wednesday. There will be an article coming soon for that in Gear Report as well. Then coming up in the nearer future, not nearer than Wednesday, but fairly near future, is what you see up behind me on my cabinet there. There are two things that I need to review. The first, you might notice that the bolt in the AR there is red. Well, that's because it's not a bolt. It is a part of a system called the Mantis Blackbeard training system. What this does is really damn cool. The one they sent me does two things. The magazine there that is also red is the battery. You take out your bolt carrier and bolt, replace it with the Mantis bolt carrier, and what this does is when you pull your trigger, the hammer strikes the Mantis, and it initiates an electric piston that resets your hammer so that you can dry fire train without having to, if any of you have dry fire training with the AR, you know how annoying it is. Click, rack the charging handle. Click, rack the charging handle. Well, with this, you can fire as many shots as you want, dry fire, and it automatically resets your trigger so you don't have to break your firing grip. You don't have to break your sight picture. You can remain on the gun, get your trigger pull, get your reset. This thing is damn cool, and I like it. Now that I have a rifle instead of a pistol, because I just finished building that rifle, I can do a good review of this. So that'll be coming soon. That model also has a laser so that you can use it with the Mantis Laser Academy, which I'll be showing along with the review of the Mantis Blackbeard itself. So that's cool. Another thing that's in it is this right here. Palmetto State Armory AR Match Grade 3.5 pound trigger. I'm telling you what, folks, this is damn good bang for your buck. So we'll be reviewing that too. Trying to think what else. I got coming up in May. Matter of fact, I'm leaving for this on my birthday. I'll be going to on the 14th. There will not be a Right of the People. Just FYI, because I'll be leaving that day and driving the 10 hours, 11 hours it takes, however long, to get down to Camden, Tennessee, to attend on the 15th and 16th the fighting pistol class with James Yeager. So I'm a little bit limited in what I can film there, but I'm going to film what I can and then do that video. So that'll be cool. Keep on the lookout for that. And then in June, I'll be going down to Atlanta to attend Blade Show. So if there's any knife companies, go to the Blade Show website, take a look, see who the vendors are, and if there's anybody that you really want me to see, let me know, and I will try to set up an appointment to interview them. So that's what I've got coming up. It's looks like some cool stuff is going to be happening here on Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. If you want to support that, head on over to Patreon and become a patron. But if you don't like Patreon for some reason, in the very near future, like sometime this weekend or next week, I'm going to be opening up channel memberships here on YouTube. So you'll get a lot of the same perks as the patrons over on Patreon do, but you'll get like cool emojis and badges and crap. Badges? We don't need no stinking badges. Yes, you do. Here on YouTube. So check that out. I want to thank all of you for coming, because I know you could have been doing anything at all from 7 till 9 Eastern here on Friday night, but you've chosen to stay here and watch us. And as always, I am humbled and amazed. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to caution you to, as always, in these dark and dangerous times, tell your Congress critters and elected representatives what you think. Be a thorn in their side. Make them get a restraining order against you and ban you from Twitter like Roll Call does with Elizabeth Warren. Send them a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, carrier pigeons, bicycle messengers, smoke signals, heliograph, anything that you have to do to let them know what you think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight. I'll see you guys on the next one.